Hi everybody, I'm DJ Foster, joined by Grand Valley State head football coach Matt Mitchell as the Lakers prepare for their second round playoff game this Saturday afternoon at Ferris State, a noon kickoff. Mitch, let's talk about your victory last weekend against Ashland, one of the only two teams that defeated you in the regular season. 45-31 was the score on Halloween when Ashland was victorious in Ashland, Ohio. You completely flipped the script, 45-28, a victory on your end. How were you guys able to just completely change the outcome of the game and move on to the second round?
Well, I think after we played the first game, we came back and we were really I was disappointed in the locker room after. We were really disappointed that we didn't play to our potential, and I think some of it had to do with the defensive side of the ball. And we talked about this a lot, that it wasn't really a scheme issue. It was just we didn't get the guys ready to go. Eye control, discipline, all that stuff. So. Round two, we played a lot better defensively, a lot better eye control. I think we changed some things up to take away some of their best players. And, the biggest influence we had, we hit the quarterback a ton and changed up a little of the coverages, and that got him off kilter. And, so it was, complete different defense out there, just from a confidence standpoint, execution standpoint. And then, the first time we played them offensively, we threw the ball around, over 400 yards passing. Bart played well. But we really didn't run the ball effectively. Some because of the score we didn't try, but we knew that the first time we didn't get Kirk Spencer the ball, and we didn't get Martavius Carter the ball, and so we made a little bit more of a conscious effort to get that done and put a little bit more pressure on our guys to do that. And I think that was a huge difference. The first game I think we had like 60 yards rushing. The second game 230 yards rushing, and.
Right.
That made a big difference. So, I think it was a case of our kids realizing they didn't play well, and the coaches tell them they didn't play well, and us not coaching up to as well as we could coach. And we went in and had a great week of preparation, and we knew it was win or go home, and we've got one opportunity here, and they really did an unbelievable job of embracing that opportunity and getting after Ashland.
It was a unique opportunity, as we talked last week, about getting to play a team that you already played once in the regular season, and then you get the chance to do it again against Ferris State this week. But first, talk about what the mood in the locker room and on the bus ride home was, not only celebrating the victory, but knowing what lies ahead.
Well, I think, we were obviously pretty excited to win and be one of 16 teams still playing after the victory at Ashland. Everybody was wondering when we got off the field what the score was between Ferris and Texas A&M Commerce. So once they realized, Ferris had won, I think our guys, they were going to be excited to keep playing, but I think they're excited the fact that they got to play Ferris again. I mean, I think it's turned into a great rivalry between the two schools. A lot of the players know each other. There's a lot of familiarity, and this is very unique. It's the first time, in the history of both institutions they met in the playoffs. And so for our players to be a part of that type of game with, you got all those backstories that we talked about week 3, but now you add on top of that, all that is the fact that the loser of this is going home and the winner gets to play on. It's a pretty special opportunity, and you put in a lot of time and effort and work as coaches and players to play in contests like this, and I think that's the way they viewed it. I think we enjoyed the win on the way home, but we were ready to get back to work and kind of get ready to face the next challenge.
Let's talk specifically about Ferris State, and obviously they were here earlier in the year in week 3, and they came away with a big victory. You've got a lot better since then. They probably got better too. What did you see looking back at that tape? How recently have you watched that tape that you did not do well?
Yeah, we've watched, all the tape, and ours is one of the games, we've watched every game. I think for our defense, at the perimeter spots, we didn't make any plays. We couldn't tackle our guys very well, and when there was contested balls in the air, they came up with all those balls. So, our secondary didn't play very well in that particular game. And then I think, and credit to Ferris, they got good skill kids. And then offensively, we didn't run the ball very effectively. And some of that, too, is we had some new guys starting at O-line and some new things happening with schematically. But their defensive line is good. Justin Zimmer is an all-conference player and is right there with Matt Judon in the conversation for GLIAC Defensive Lineman of the Year with all his tackles for loss. And they've got some other guys up front. So they've got a very solid front. So, we take a look at some of the things that we got to be able to do and on both sides of the ball to have a chance. And, they're very good. They're very balanced. They're very explosive offensively, and they're very stout defensively. And it's going to be a tough challenge.
Yeah, what do you think will be the biggest keys for victory this weekend and move on to hopefully a third playoff game?
Yeah, I'm the last couple of weeks we've turned the ball over, and we had not really done that a lot. I think we were able to save ourselves with some getting some turnovers on that side of the ball. We got to get those turnovers the last couple of weeks cleaned up. We can't afford those. If we give them extra possessions like that, we're not going to win this football game. So making great decisions at quarterback, maintaining ball security on the offensive side of the ball, and I think this is, we took a step forward with assignment defense to make sure guys are with eyes in the right spot. When you face that type of scheme, you got to have that. So we got to rely on that a little bit on the defensive side of the ball, and hopefully we can be opportunistic. And if there's a chance that the ball's on the ground or the ball's in the air, we can get some tips, get some overthrows, get some turnovers to try to create an extra possession for offense too. So that turnover battle. And I think field position battle, too, is going to be huge, and part of that's on our special teams, trying to set up our offensive defense with some special teams work that'll give us field position.
A huge rivalry matchup in the playoffs, the second round of the playoffs this Saturday from Big Rapids, a noon start between Grand Valley State and Ferris State. Mitch, thanks for your time and best of luck this weekend.
All right, thank you.